Daniel Dluzneski. What a great conversation with Daniel. He is a school safety advocate. He was in the Secret Service. He was hired by a county in Florida to help with the situation of active shooter response. He wrote a book. He's now retired, but he advocates so strongly about it. He has set opinions on lockdown. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with ALICE, which is a particular reaction to school shooting. I was unfamiliar with this, an acronym. There's another called Run, Hide, Fight. And he has strong opinions about those and about technology. We talk about some of the biggest incidents of school shootings here in the United States and what happened and where they fell short. Of course, I'm from the great state of Connecticut, where we had the terrible tragedy there of Sandy Hook, which was really the largest and the first in my lifetime. Just living minutes away from that and knowing officers that were there. But it's a discussion that needs to be had. And Daniel is just a strong advocate. Like I said, he's retired now, but he's even more passionate about it now than ever. His view on discipline is very interesting as well. Great conversation with Daniel. Thanks for listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz. People ask me, how did I lose 130 pounds? The quick answer is always discipline. I started my business, wasn't paying attention to my health, was eating too much, drinking too much sweets. My daughter was born. Next thing I know, I'm pre-diabetic, I have hypertension. I knew something had to change. Discipline. I, like many of you, have faced many challenges in your career, in your family, in your life, in your faith. How did you attack them? How did you approach them? How did you solve them, hopefully? It all had to have some degree of discipline. I'm also asked, how did you found and start a tech business that lasted over 25 years? Discipline. I was committed to it, enjoyed technology, didn't enjoy some aspects of it, but knew it was necessary. Discipline. Our podcast mission, how do we use discipline to better ourselves and society? Join me, please, as I talk to interesting people and discuss how they use discipline in their family and their passion and their careers and how it helped them. Our podcast vision, growth through learning from others. Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. It'll be light and serious. Join us, please. Thank you for consideration. Very excited to talk to you, Daniel Dluzneski. Yes, I'm sorry, Dluzneski.
There you go.
What does it take to be a great basketball commentator?
Oh my God. You know what? I grew up in Connecticut.
Me too.
And even though I was a Laker fan, I used to listen to the radio to the Knicks games, and Marv Albert was that's the guy I wanted to be. I know we had issues later on in life.
Sure.
But listening to him announce these games, like, that's what I want to do. I want to do that. I didn't really care about television. I wanted to be on radio. So when I got older, actually, I was fortunate in high school. I had a real good mentor, Mr. Strong, my algebra teacher. And in fact, he's still alive and comes down and visits me. And he wanted to tape the basketball games. He says, "Hey," he says, "you want to announce them while we're on, doing the camera work?" I'm like, "Okay." So I did that. And I was actually very close to going to just one of these schools for radio, whatever the heck it was in New Haven or whatever. And I went and visited them, and they weren't really enthusiastic. I said, "Well, I might as well get a degree." So I went out to Southern Illinois and in Carbondale, and they had their own broadcast center, their own TV center, the whole radio thing. And then once you get into it, it's very cliquish, and it's kind of who you know. So I fell back on the criminal justice. I thought, that's not for me. So it kind of turned my life around, but that's okay. It turned out okay.
Yeah, it certainly did. So then you're not heavy enough, and you take some time off, and you get into the Secret Service.
Yeah, I weighed about 160 pounds soaking wet. And that was an incredible time back then. You're talking early 80s. So they had a weight requirement back. I didn't know anything about this. I thought, what the hell are you doing? I'll gain the weight. Oh, no, the process has to stop until you gain the weight. Me like a dummy, instead of going to the doctor and say, put some white out here, make me gain 10 pounds,
Yeah.
Whatever. No, no, no. I go on a weight training program, and my metabolism was so fast, it took me a month to gain this weight. And by
Wow.
then, the classes were filled. They only had classes like once a year. Now they're much more frequent. Their need, the agency has grown so much. Anyway, so I said, okay, I'm not going to wait a year. I'll go do some other stuff. And I knocked around. I worked for DHL, the courier service, worked for an alarm agency, worked for an import exporter. Now I'm in my 30s. I'm like, well, what the hell? I need a career. What am I going to do? And I think it's still the same now, but 32 or was it 34? It's either 32 or 34 was the maximum age you could be before you apply for the Secret Service. I thought, let me give it another shot. So I did. I got in. But now I'm the oldest. All my classmates
Mm.
are 10 years younger than me. First job, and they're all scared and stuff. And I've been around. And when you went through training, I hated it. And they loved it. They loved training. Oh my gosh,
Hmm.
this is so easy. They're doing this, and they're going on drinking every night, and this and this. And we had a class of 21. And by the time we ended, I want to end it. Out of 21, I think there were 5 of us that went through the whole 20 years or more at the service. And a lot of guys just, it wasn't for them. I loved the
Hmm.
job. Once I got on the job, I was like, okay, this is great. Heck with training.
Hmm.
So just works out. It just worked out that way. And I think because I was older, had my education, I got more opportunities than when I was younger. So it worked out.
And you're part of K9, and there was an issue with the retiring the dog and you keeping it, and
Yep. Yeah, I got into K9, and I was the juniorist of that class because it was juniorist of time in. And I got the last dog, and he was sickly. He had kennel cough, so it's like pneumonia for dogs. And I had no idea if he was going to make it or not. And he did. He was also like, heck, he was like 90, not even 90 pounds. Anyway, I got him, and everything was working out fine. And then he just gave up. He didn't have the drive. And I remember the trainers telling me, look, he's working for you. He just loves working for you. He didn't care about
wow.
the ball. We would give him a ball as a reward. He'd spit it out. He didn't care. And I think after a while he was just like, I had enough of this. I don't want to do this anymore. And at the time, it's different now, but at the time it's like you get one dog and you're done. If he doesn't work anymore, you're out. So I was really scared because I was already in for 4 years that they were going to take him away from me. And there was all these rumors going around. They were going to send him to other police agencies. They were going to put him down. All this stuff was going on. And they kicked me out of the program, but I got to keep him. So like, okay, fine. I got to keep a great dog. He lived till he was 13. He was a great house pet, even though being a Belgian Malinois, he was very hyper. But no, he was a great dog. So yeah, I was fortunate in that end. And yeah, moved on from there. Went into public affairs and worked at the White House and stuff. So it was a varied career. I was fortunate enough to stay in Washington D.C. I didn't have to get moved around to different cities or areas of the United States. So
Mm.
I was fortunate.
So then Daniel, we get into school safety, right? This is You wrote a book, and this is what you're doing now, and it's
Yes,
a serious issue. You have active shooter training in your book.
absolutely. Yeah,
Talk to
I
me about it.
came down here to retire in Florida, which at the time it's like, okay, this is it. It's beautiful beaches. I like the hot weather. And after about 3 months with an alpha personality, you're like, oh my God, I was driving my, ex-wife now, I was driving her crazy. And this job opened up with Pinellas County, and it fit my resume. I thought, oh, this is perfect for me. And came into that. And the problem, I say a problem, it became a problem, but the issue, I guess, more is it was just me. Here you go, Dan. You've got over 100,000 students. You're dealing with 140 schools, and you're it. No staff, no
Hmm.
secretary, no help, nothing. So here's the book. Here you go. You're on your own. Make our schools safe. So
Hmm.
I ran with it and had a boss that let me run with it, and figured out as we went along what to do, how to help these schools. And I had a bunch of people that were in the office there that worked with me, had the money to fix the fencing, everything from the outside in into lobby areas. And I hated to be at a desk. So I made it my goal to visit every one of those 140 schools. And it did. It took me over a year to visit every
Hmm.
one of those schools and meet with those principals. And I told them anytime that you're going to run a drill, because at the time we were running drills probably every quarter. And I said, I want to be here. Just email me. I want to be here. I want to see what's going on. And I did. I observed over 100 of these drills from high schools and middle schools and elementary schools, because that's how I learned with the Secret Service. You got to fix things. If something goes wrong, it's just like, oh, it went wrong. We got through the drill, check the box. No, 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 no. What happened? What went wrong? We have to fix whatever. You'd go to schools, and just for example, that half the school couldn't hear the PA system because the speakers weren't working, or substitutes would come in and they'd forget their keys to lock the door, or all these things were going on. I said, no, that's why we drill to figure this stuff out. You got to fix it. So, yeah, it was a struggle. And I tell the story that one of the biggest struggles was getting away from codes. They were still dealing with codes, code red, code blue, code, whatever the hell code they would come up with. What are you doing? No, just plain language. Tell them we're in a lockdown. We're in a fire, whatever, just plain language, tell them that. That took a while. Anyway, right before I left, I wanted to make sure, and it's pretty rote now that the schools have taken over this, that you lock the classroom door during class time. Keep that door locked. Teachers don't like it, obviously, because you got kids coming in and out, bathroom, break, I want to go here, I want to go there. Now, keep the door locked because you're one step ahead for the lockdowns. And what's happening, Joey, is that recently, within the past 5 years, you've had this issue of what's called run, hide, fight. And run, hide, fight is created back at the Department of Homeland Security, and they work with the Houston Police Department to create this video. It's out there on YouTube. It's like 20 years old. And it's got the movie theater narration. It's got the guy all dressed in black, and he comes in the video, and he's got a shotgun. And the narrator tells you, if you can run, run. Run outside, run away, call 911, find a safe place. Second step, if you can't run, then you hide under a desk, in an office, whatever. Third part of it is, if you have to, then you have to fight. Well, it's made for adults, and it's made for the corporate world, not for schools. Somehow, somebody thought it was a good idea to transform it over to schools. Was like the absolute wrong thing to do. At first, I thought, all right, it's something different. Maybe high school kids, this would work for high school kids because they're a little more sophisticated. They're almost adults themselves. But when you think about it, if I'm a parent, I'm sure as hell not going to have my kid, I don't care if he's in high school, fight a gunman with what? What do I grab a fire extinguisher and beat him over? What? Are you kidding? And, elementary and middle school, obviously you wouldn't have him fight. So then, in fact, Pinellas County now still has on their website, it's called options-based training. And what they did was they tweaked it. They said, oh, all right, we're going to go with run, hide, fight, but we're not going to have the little children fight, okay? And we may have them run, but we're going to leave it up to the teacher. So can you imagine you're a teacher and something bad happens? There's a gunman on campus, there's an emergency. Now, you don't know where this person is. In fact, the technology out there, it's not going to tell you where this person is. So you've got the burden on the teacher to make the decision whether to lock down in the classroom or to take these 25 to 30 kids and run out of the school into a designated area. Can you imagine the burden of that, the liability, the litigation that's going to happen if this person makes the wrong decision? So I completely disagree with this options-based training. And if I'm a parent, because now if I'm out there talking to teachers, administrators, they're like, look, Dan, what you're saying is common sense. However, our orders are coming from the school board. They're coming from legislation. They're coming from the superintendent. This is what we have to do. Fine. Then if I'm a parent, I'm like, I sure as heck, I'm not going to have my child running out of a hallway where no one knows where the gunman is. And you're going to hear all these horrible sounds. You're going to see stuff you don't want to see. You're going to step over bodies. It's just chaos. Stay in the classroom. There's only been one incident in the United States over these however many years, even before Columbine, where an individual tried to shoot out a lock in a school. One. It takes too long. This guy took 3 shots at the lock. It never did break off. He had to bust through a window to get in the classroom. So this idea, playing devil's advocate, that they're sitting ducks. They're not sitting ducks. No one. They're not going to bust through the classroom. It's not possible, because I give the perfect example of the Nashville shooting. If you look at that video of the Nashville shooting, the person shot out those glass doors. Yeah, that was going to happen. Now they're in. And you see them going down the hallway, checking the doors. Locked, move on. Locked, move on. Open, go in. They're not looking for locked classrooms. It takes too long to try to bust through. Looking for open classrooms, easy victims, because there's a clock in their head. And that's why I named the book 5 Minutes. On average, and this is the FBI data says on average, most of these school shootings happen within the first 3 to 5 minutes. Some even less than that. Wow. So those critical 5 minutes or even less, if you're a teacher and students, you're on your own. The good guys are coming. They're coming. But for that moment, you're on your own. Stay locked down. You've already got the classroom door locked. Turn off the lights, close the blinds, silence your phone. Children sit quietly on the floor away from the windows and door. The good guys are coming. You do not listen to any alarms, no announcements, no bells. Do not open that door. I don't care who's pounding on it. You don't open the door once it's locked, and you wait. And I know that's the worst thing in the world that can happen, that you're waiting for the inevitable, which you hope that the bad thing doesn't happen. And I tell them, look, if you got somebody even that is attempting to open that door that you know they're going to bust through it, get a file cabinet, desk, anything, and barricade the door. It's percentage-wise, it's not going to happen. They're not. They're just going to move on. They're going to go to an open door. And the reason for that is, I would say, people say 75%. I think it's higher than that. Most of these school shooters are either current students or they're former students. They know which doors are open. They know which door they use for all these exits and entrances. They know the drills. They know all this stuff. They plan this stuff months in advance. These kids don't wake up one day grabbing a gun going, I think I'm going to go shoot up a school. Months in advance, they plan this stuff, and it's precise. Recently, as you know, we've had this Iowa shooting. And the Iowa shooting, I didn't know this. I didn't know this till it came out in the press. The principal was critically injured. The reason he was critically injured is he walked out and tried to confront or talk down the shooter.
Right.
And I believe, because it's happened before, it happened in Parkland, it happened in Sandy Hook, it's happened in other schools and incidents, this ALICE training teaches you to confront or counter an individual. And I don't know why it is educators that fall into this pattern, but they believe they can go and try to talk down this person. Joey, that person's way beyond any talking down. They've made their minds up. They're, like people say, when they see them, it's just robotic. There's no emotion, nothing. They're just going and just killing, and they're not going to be talked down to or confronted. You want to confront them? Okay, well, if you want to have yourself a weapon, then confront them, but you're not going to talk them down. So this idea that somehow these people, and I know it's sad, somehow that these people are heroes, they're not. That guy left the family. Now his wife's literally, his kids, it's fatherless. So
the guy meaning the principal.
The guy meaning the principal.
Yeah.
They're not heroes. I'm sorry. I mean, that's going to piss some people off, but no. You don't do that. You don't. And this ALICE training, this is another thing that came out. It's a former law enforcement person who came out with this ALICE training. ALICE, another acronym. Everybody's got acronyms. ALICE, ALIVE, whatever the heck acronyms they have out there. ALICE stands for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate. Okay, so we start with alert. Perfect. There should be an alert. In fact, Pinellas County Schools now has an automatic alert. All you have to do is push a button, and an announcement will come over automatically through the loudspeaker system, whatever the incident is. Great. Second is lockdown. Absolutely, perfectly agree. Lockdown. The third part of ALICE is called Inform. What's supposed to happen in Inform is someone, a designated person, is supposed to be looking at the cameras in the school and announce over the PA system where this gunman is and where he's going. We don't have any camera systems like that follows people through the school. It's not in existence. It's not going to happen. Third is counter. Now, counter got away from because they didn't want to say the word fight. So they used the word counter. However, in ALICE, they want not only the teachers to counter the individual, they want the children to counter the individual.
Wow.
So imagine you've got a class, I don't care if they're middle school or elementary school, even high school, and you've got children that are trained maybe for an hour and a half. and they are told to counter, meaning they are supposed to precisely take something, a phone, an iPad, a book, and throw it precisely at the gunman to counter them from being shot. Now, can you imagine, because it takes athletes months, sometimes years to perfect, shoot, police officers like myself, it takes months to perfect that, military. So you're going to teach these kids an hour and a half, and then 6 months down the road going, okay, we got a gunman coming in. We're going to precisely throw something at them all at the same time to counter that individual. If I'm a parent, I'm like, you are kidding me. I am not going to have my child go through this. You're already terrorized. You're already at an emotional place. And now you're going to throw something at this gunman. Now, Joey, if this gunman is just this robotic individual, what do you think is going to happen if the people are throwing stuff at him? They're going to get even more mad and then start spraying everything in the classroom, even if they get to that point. There's no child psychologist, no mental health organization, nothing that agrees with this idea of countering an individual. It just is absolutely ludicrous and just throw common sense out the window. I would sure as heck not my child have anything to do with that. And what's happening with this Alice training and run, hide, fight, after the fact, whether it's a real incident or a drill, they're getting sued because people are getting hurt, people emotionally are getting hurt, and it's just not right. It's just something that needs to be destroyed and rethought. Lockdowns work. They've worked for years after Columbine, even before Columbine. They've worked. For some reason, these agencies and these school systems think, oh, we got to do something different. A knee-jerk reaction. We need to do something different. Let's do run, hide, fight. Let's do Alice, whatever the heck it is. Anyways, that's what I try to put out now, that, look, this stuff is dangerous. If you're a parent, talk to your children. What's going on? What are they doing during drills at schools, during emergency drills? I know teenagers, look, I got a 17-year-old. It's all yes or no answers. They don't want to talk to their parents. Yeah, did you ever drill? Yeah, we ran a drill today. I got to go upstairs. Come on, I got to get back on the video game, back on my phone. I got to talk to my friends. Pin them down. How are you running emergency drills? Are you running out of the classroom when there's a supposed gunman on the school, or are you locking down? If they say they're running out of the classroom, that's when a red flag should go up for the parent. You go, you're doing what? Why are you running out of a perfectly safe classroom? Well, the teacher told us to. No. And what's going to happen, if it hasn't happened yet, when you get these kids, these middle school kids, high school kids, even elementary school kids, they're going to hesitate. They're going to say, my dad said we stay in the classroom. I'm not going with you. So you're going to gather 25 to 30 kids, and some are going to balk. Some are going to freeze. Now you're going to try to run them out. And you know what? It's not just one classroom running out. It's all the classrooms running out. What's going to happen at that exit? They're going to trample each other. They're going to pile up at that exit door because, Joey, when you run the drill, they're walking. We're going to walk nice. This is the way we're going, kids. We're going to walk. Here we go. What do you think is going to happen to a real thing? They are going to panic and absolutely rush out of that school because they don't want to get shot. I'll give you an example of Parkland. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas in Parkland, which was ironically, after that happened is when I left the job. Parkland had a drill a month prior to this happening. It's been in the news where they said, oh, no, they never ran any drills. Yes, they did. Just 1 month prior, they ran a drill. They ran an active shooter drill. The day that this happened, some teachers thought, oh, it's another drill because they're hearing this pop, pop sound, right? So during this time, because it was a school with 3 floors, the individual either pulled the fire alarm or somehow a ricochet set off the fire alarm. They did not train for the fire alarm. So now they're thinking, well, we got to get out. It's a fire alarm. We have to leave. So now you got half the school saying, no, we're going to stay in the lockdown. The other half going, no, we got to leave. Wow. So now the chaos starts. The other thing was some of the teachers thought, okay, I hear shots at the other end of the school building. Come on, kids, we're going to get out of here. We're going to go. So they go out, and as they're going towards their exit, the shots they're hearing are actually echoes. So they were going towards the gunman. How did they know? They don't know. They didn't know. Why are you leaving the classroom? So the idea that somehow it's safer, and there's no data out there, Although there is an organization out there that's been out there for 30 some odd years, run by a guy named Michael Dorn. It's called safehavensinternational.org. They have done the research on some of this stuff. They are the ones now that drive this research for this Alice and Run Hide fight, saying, no, 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 no. We're getting too much litigation, too much liability. Hey, you lawyers for these school systems, you better look a lot closer at this stuff because you're going to get sued for millions. It's already happened. It's out there. These schools are getting sued for running these kind of drills with this Run Hide Fight and Alice stuff. So this idea that you have to do something different, stay in lockdown. It's still backed by the National Association of Psychologists. It's still backed by the National Association of School Resource Officers. So that's what I now try to get out in these podcasts. That no, stay with it. It's why are you doing something different? There's no reason to.
You mentioned with the lockdown, you want to wait until, the good guys get there, but we did have an incident, I believe, in Texas where the police would not even enter. Do I
Yeah,
have that right?
yes, you do. That was Uvalde. And
Yes.
I know the media focuses on the absence of police response, but I'm going to tell you 99.9% of the time, the police are doing the right thing.
I see.
That incident was just beyond, it just was beyond belief. But it just wasn't the police response. That school had issues with open doors, broken locks, a security guard that wasn't there, a wedge door that was open. So there were things that happened beforehand. But once the police response happened, or lack of response, yeah, it became a fiasco after that. And yeah, there were, and these parents, obviously, if you're a parent, then you're like, what are you doing? Why are you not going in? And the fallacy was that they thought it was a hostage situation, when it wasn't. So there's a 600-page report out there Department of Justice has put out. It's a long thing, but there was a lot of things that went bad there. But overall, Joey, 99% of the time, the police are doing the right thing. And I always point out Nashville, which was a perfect response. They came in and do exactly what they needed to do. They were there on time, got in and did what they're supposed to do and took the shooter out. So that was an anomaly. However, that anomaly was what made me write the book, because I was so angry. And my wife said, look, you got to vent. You got to get this out there.
Yeah.
So I'm not on here to sell the book. It's more about awareness in the message, because it's a guidebook. The book is only 77 pages long. It's called The First 5 Minutes. And again, it's because it is data from the FBI. And I wanted a book that was easy to read. You can get to it quickly. It's not a 200 or 300 page diatribe where it just sits on a shelf collecting dust. You can flip through it to where the areas that you want to talk about. And it's just something that I wanted, something concise that would explain in detail how to just calmly have the confidence that if something bad happens, you know what to do. You've already done it. Door's already locked. You're already more than halfway there. You don't have to leave the classroom. Now just shut the lights off, the blinds, sit quietly, and the emergency response is going out. You're okay. So the idea is still out there in some areas where, oh, it'll never happen here. Never happened here. Nah, we're fine. No, I'm sure Sandy Hook, I'm sure Parkland, they all said that. As long as you're prepared. I just want you prepared. And the issue sometimes comes up about the amount of drills that are run, because it almost becomes drill fatigue. And at the time, I thought, this is such an important issue. Why can't we run these drills once a month? They run fire drills once a month. Joey, when's the last time a kid died in a fire? It's like 130 something years ago. I mean, nowadays these schools are built so well. But it's legislation's been like that. We've been running fire drills since we were kids. But running active shooter drills, or just act in an incident drill, it takes too much time. Minimum at a high school of like 1,200 kids, you're talking an hour at a minimum. That's at best in an hour. And I mean an hour where you run the drill correctly. I've had schools that were in such a hurry with just checking the box. They'll run the drill, then they'll make an announcement. Hey, the drill's over. Everybody back. We're good to go. Really? No, you just failed. No, you don't make an announcement saying the drill's over. But it takes time. And I understand teachers, and especially here in Florida, are under a lot of pressure because we grade the schools just like we grade kids A through F. If you're an F or a D school, you're like, I don't have time for this. I got homework. I got tests coming up. I got things to do. And you got to run a drill. And I always emphasize, look, try to run the drills unannounced because then you're going to find out stuff that happens. If you announce the drill, Joey, we're all human. If you announce the drill, what's going to happen? You're going to pre-plan. You're going to pre-plan. I know it's coming. I'm already going to have the lights off. I already got the blinds shut. Let's get this thing over with. I got schoolwork I got to do. So that's frustrating. So I try to say, look, how about this? Because you get complaints from parents also. They'll call the school and say, hey, what, you had a drill today? Nobody told me. All right. How about we have parents and teachers sometime during this week, we're going to have a drill. We're going to have an active shooter drill. Okay. So we know sometime during that week, there's going to be a drill. Now, rumors may come around and people whispering and stuff. Oh, it's today. It's going to be today. All right. As long as you don't pre-plan, as long as you are there when it happens, like, oh my God, we had a drill. When I first got on the job, my supervisor, Mike Bissett, he had been in the system for a number of years. And he he didn't care. He was a superintendent. He would walk into these schools and say, I am a gunman. You're in an active shooter event. Go. And they would just look at him with this blank stare. And he's like, I'm serious. I want to see how you react. And I love that. I love that. However, as time would go on, the complaints from not only teachers, administrators, and parents going, man, you can't do that anymore. You just can't, because it's just, it became a point where people just were like, this is too much. You can't just spring it on us like that. Even though in reality, in real life,
of course,
it could happen exactly like that. I mean, look at Cruz. The guy, come on. The guy takes an Uber and he's got a freaking rifle in a case. The Uber driver didn't say anything. He gets out of the Uber, walks into an open gate, which he knows is going to be open, walks in an open door, which he knows is going to be open, and just starts firing away. Now, yeah, were there issues with the SROs that were there, the school resource officers? Yeah, there were. I mean, the police response was a little odd, for that. And then, of course, you had a gym teacher that was going to confront him, and he got shot. So it's just something that, again, I was very fortunate here in Pinellas County. We had a really good relationship with the police department, with the county sheriffs, with the local police. I asked for every school to have a liaison. You need to have a liaison with that police department so they know what's going on. Because what would happen, and this happens in every area, you'd have them chasing a criminal. I don't know if you're a burglary, a suspect, whatever. Hey, you guys at the school, you need to go into a lockdown. Even though that individual is not on campus, because I would argue you don't need to go into a lockdown. You can go into a lockout. Just, don't change classes. Just close the outside doors. You don't need to go into a lockdown. And what would happen after 2-3 hours would go by, I get a phone call from the principal going, hey, I don't see any police anymore. We're still in a lockdown. Kids got to go to the bathroom. Well, look, I was in law enforcement. Your main concern is not the school. They're like number 10 on the list of what you're dealing with some criminal out there, crazy ass going to shoot people or whatever. So you forgot about it. And the schools, are like, what is going on? You got to tell us what's going on. So I always encourage a liaison with the school. You don't have to be there at the time, but just have a reminder that, hey, incident is over. You can come out of your lockdown, because, I can imagine sitting there 3-4 hours. These kids, look, you got to use the bathroom. Come on. So it's just something, again, I encourage. 2 things, Joey, before I forget, and I won't forget before we're at the end. Number 1, you keep yourself safe. What happens a lot is that I will have principals, especially elementary school principals, and I understand, they want to save their kids. Those kids are their family. You got these little children up to 5th grade. They want to save them. They want to go out. So I would come in and do a drill, and I'd say, well, how do you guys, what do you do? Who has keys? How do you set up the situation? Oh, they said, we're coming with you to make sure that the doors are locked. I'm like, okay, but what do you do? What would you do during a real event? Oh, we'd go out and make sure all the doors are locked. I'm like, are you carrying a weapon? No, we just want to make sure our kids are safe. I said, well, then you're not going home. And I said, you have to go in your office and lock the door and stay there till the good guys come. And literally, Joey, these principals would be in tears because, again, alpha personality. You felt like you didn't want to feel helpless.
Right.
You have to do something. I have to do something. No, what you have to do is go sit down and make yourself safe. Because if you're not safe, if you're dead, you're not helping anybody. So you keep yourself safe. That's the number one thing I would say for all these incidents. Teachers, students, you keep yourself safe first. Then you can help people. It's just like being on an airplane when that oxygen mask drops. What do they tell you? You put the oxygen mask on yourself first. Now you can help the child, the elderly person. So you keep yourself safe first. Then you can help other individuals. Secondly, armed school resource officers. These people go through intensive training. They are an advocate. During this, excuse me, crap with this defund the police movement, all these students said, "Oh no, I feel oppressed. My cousin was arrested by you guys. I don't want to see a uniform. This bothers me. I have emotional problems." And you're like, they're not there to arrest you. They don't have arrest powers. They're not police. They're there as an advocate and protect you if something happens in this school. They're an advocate between the parents and the administration and the teachers. They are the most important resource, I would say, right now in a school system. Forget about metal detectors, forget about all the cameras, get the budget for school resource officers. And luckily here in Florida, we've got one up to 1,000 students. And when it gets up to 1,000 students, you get two, which is perfect. I mean, that's what you want. These people have a relationship with these students. They know what they're doing. They're trained to deal with students. Okay. So those are two things that I wanted to mention before we get out of here. But very important to have school resource officers on campus. And I'm sure you got questions. I'm sorry, I keep going on this, and I get kind of crazy. So you just
Daniel, what can adults do that don't have kids in the system? Can they help support?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no reason for them because I tell you what, every adult has someone. They either have a niece or a nephew or a
Neighbor.
daughter or not neighbor, cousin, somebody that their kid is going to school easily. They can now. I understand you only get 3 minutes when you go in front of a school board, but I tell you what, you can get a good page and a half in there, and then you just talk fast enough and get your point across. And like I said, look for the red flags. If something in your gut says, I don't want my kid running out of the classroom, or I don't want my kid throwing stuff at a gunman. That's crazy.
Yeah.
If that red flag goes up, you feel in your gut, go to a school board meeting. Oh, it's easy enough to pick up the phone and talk to the school, and they're going to give you all this stuff about how they're doing this by levels, and oh no, we don't do that for small children. They'll give you the BS, and that's everything's welcoming and kumbaya. No, if they're telling you they're doing options-based training or anything that has run, hide, fight, or Alice in it, that should raise a red flag. Say, what are you doing? I don't want my kids doing that. Why don't they just stay in a lockdown? So, yeah, they obviously have the power.
And plus, this active shooter is in your community. I hear some people say, I don't have kids anymore. I don't have to worry about this. But this person is in your community. You should know about it.
Yes, absolutely. And that's another thing that recently has come out, these threat assessment teams. And these teams are made up of teachers, the police, administrators, the SROs, and they, I think, at least now they're doing at least once a week. And they'll have files on these students that have issues, and they'll talk about, what they need to do. And the other thing I bring up now, I'm thinking about it, Joey, is that a lot of these kids, especially middle and high school, will have committees. They'll have a safety committee. And most of the time now, these safety committees are the social justice, gender issues. We want to make sure everybody's welcoming. You know what? These kids, you have ownership in the schools. What are you doing? Take your study break and just walk around the school. Because I guarantee you, if I go today to any of these high school and middle schools, I'm going to find an open door. I'm going to find it because it's going to be wedged open. And why is it wedged open? Because you got a teacher stepping out to get a smoke. You got a kid waiting for a pizza. You got a kid who's late for school and going to wedge the door open. Hey, I'll get you in, buddy. Don't worry. You come late. They know, all these shooters know which of these doors are going to be open because they wedge them open. Every time I go around school, I see that freaking triangle wedge. It would drive me nuts going, are you out of your mind? Walk around the school. You're not snitching on anybody. You're just walking around with the other SROs. You do it on your own. Hey, I got a wedge door open. What the heck, what's going on? The door should be locked. All those exterior doors should be locked and closed. You should have only one entrance during that school day, and that one entrance should be a lobby area where that person is trapped and has to come into a lobby area at the front desk and see if they have access. If they don't have access, you're out of here. Back out. The only way they get in is they're either buzzed in or swipe card to get into that school. So, yeah, you need that kind of lobby area which is enclosed. And the other thing I want to bring up, we'll talk about a little bit, is technology. A lot of times, a lot of schools will say, parents at these meetings, hey, we got to do something. We have to do something. There's too many weapons. We had a kid with a knife. We had a kid bring a gun in. We need metal detectors. Okay. Usually the state will have a budget and they'll say, it will give you a grant. Get yourself metal detectors. So now they get the metal detectors. Okay. And the superintendent or principal go, whew, we're good. Parents, we're good. We got metal detectors. We're safe. No, you're not. It's what's called security theater. It looks good.
Hmm.
It's not going to do a darn thing. Do you think some crazy person who wants to come in and shoot people with metal detector is going to stop them? No. They'll just bust right through it and shoot them up. Metal detectors, they take too much time, training, maintenance. It's absolutely worthless. No. And if you wanted to get a gun into that school, these kids are smart. Come on. All these kids know where every camera is in that school. Every camera. They know all the hiding places where they don't get seen. You're a kid. You're not naive. They know what's going on. If they want to get a weapon into that school, they're going to get it in. When are they going to do it? After school, during the weekend, during a sporting event. Throw it through a window. Hey, here's my backpack. I don't have to tell you what's in it. Put it in my locker and hold on to it. So this idea that metal detectors somehow make you safer, untrue. No, the main thing about any budget you have is training your people. It's not to buy the latest technology. It's not to get the latest camera. It's training your people correctly and training them so they have the confidence when something happens, they know what to do. That's it. It's very simple. It doesn't cost you anything, really.
So Daniel, I'm from Connecticut, and about 40 minutes, half hour would be east of Newtown, of Sandy Hook. I know your sister was there as well. I believe she says she's substituted teacher there, and I was there when that happened. I worked
Yeah.
out with officers that were there on the scene. Of course, you know they since knocked the school down and
Yes.
put up another one, and there's all activism happening there. It was a sad day, certainly in United States, Connecticut history. Talk to me about that incident. I mean, it was kind of really the first kind of major one in my lifetime.
Yeah. It was, and it's fun. You know about that school. Just to tell your audience, the school's not easy to get to.
Oh, yeah, it's
It's
tucked.
off.
Yeah,
It's on a narrow road.
yeah.
It's off the highway. It's behind a. You don't see it from the road. It's behind a fire department, down a back road through the back. So not easy to get to. And this individual, who obviously had mental health issues, had also gone to school there. Shot and killed his mother, and
Yeah.
his mother thought it was a good idea for him to have a weapon, I guess, to shoot or whatever. It would help his mental health. It didn't. Um, but again, that was just something again that they shot. He shot the glass out from the door, which again, that's just something an easy fix. But again, he was challenged by the principal for whatever reason, thinking that again he was going to talk him down. This is something once it gets to that point, you're not going to talk them down. But yeah, that was something where the idyllic New England community, that was one of the things you would say never happened here. It
Right.
was like a Currier and Ives card. I mean, that's how it looked up there, that whole town, Newtown and Sandy Hook, which is
Beautiful.
just like a suburb of Newtown.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of those where, oh, could never happen here. And it did. And they tried to prepare as well as they could. In fact, you had a few hero kids there that were able to get out. But yeah, that wasn't good. That wasn't good. But from that incident, we learned from it.
Mm.
Each time you learn something new of each of these incidents. And when I, was going through this stuff, of course, being in law enforcement, you're in your head thinking about, well, yeah, could it be worse? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this going to end? No, we're not going to make schools prisons. We can't.
Right.
We can't. There still has to be a welcoming environment. You still want parents to drive up going, I know my kids are safe. You still want that. So But we're not going to get 100%. You can never go to a school and say, hey, you're 100% preventative. You're good,
Right.
good to go. Nothing will ever happen here. You can't. So you have to have, I mean, it's not a cliche, but it's called situational awareness. You have to know what's going on. You have to know that someone's always watching, always.
Hmm.
And a bad guy, good guy, whatever, someone's always watching. And if you hear things, and that's why I always tell these kids, look, you're not snitching on each other. If you see something wrong with Johnny or Susie or Billy or whatever, say something. Say
Hmm.
something to a mentor, a teacher. I don't care if it's an older student or the SRO. Hey, Billy's got some kind of problems. I just don't know. Now, what we run into, you get into civil rights areas because if just by rumor or just by someone saying something, are they allowed to go in and check that person's computer, their personal computer, their emails, their
Hmm.
social media?
Hmm.
It runs into these civil rights issues, which is very frustrating.
Hmm.
But there are a lot of incidents that have happened that someone would say something to an SRO that have stopped these incidents just by a student saying something. So there's been a lot of incidents that have been stopped by just somebody
Good.
saying something.
Good. Yeah, we hear that even at airports. You see something, say something.
Hmm. Yeah, no, exactly. You're not snitching on anybody. You're keeping your school safe and everybody else in
Mm.
there safe by saying you have concerns. Now, what that runs into is what's happening, what's called swatting. You'll have these kids that just get angry with each other or have been bullied or there's a gang thing going on. And swatting is where they'll make a call, a 911 call, and they'll say whatever, hey, there's a shooter on campus or there's a bomb or whatever, for that police response to come rushing in. And of course, everybody's looking around going, why are the police here? Well, where did that come from? Or to someone's home. That's happened more recently. And the
Hmm.
other thing that's happening, now we're talking about it, and the social media is, to me, is just the worst thing that's ever happened. It's not a good thing anymore. It was the beginning, it's not anymore.
Yeah.
You'll have kids that are allowed with their cell phones in school. Now this is not my area, obviously, of expertise, but I've had so many incidents where kids with cell phones would text rumors and stuff. I got an example. There was a school up north of us in Eastlake, 1,500 kids. Okay, they had a bomb threat. Okay, and as I disagree with stuff because whenever we had a bomb threat at the White House, it was like, okay, just what, look around your area, no big deal, unless we see an actual item. I mean, my whole thing was if you got a bomb, if you got a hang up, hey, there's a bomb threat at Eastlake, click and they hang up. Okay, to me that's a nothing. There's nothing. If you got a bomb threat that says, hey, it's on floor so and so, it's in
Mm.
classroom so and so, and it's against
Mhm.
Mr. Smith. Okay, I got specifics, and there's an item in there. I'm going to find this item. If it's just a hang up, like now you've just wasted probably 2 hours because you got to evacuate the school. And I always argued against that. And every argument I got, the answer was, well, if just one student got hurt, oh my gosh, the media would be all over us. Like, oh my God. All right. So you're evacuating the school of 1,500 kids. Next door to Eastlake is their middle school. Well, you better evacuate them too in case that bomb goes off. So now you got
Mm.
another 800 kids out there going to some designated area about 1,000 feet away. Here come the police. Here come the fire department. Okay. It's going to be a minimum 2 hours to search all these schools,
Right.
the one high school, to do that. Well, what happens next? Now the texts start. All these kids will start texting, hey, mom, bomb threat at the school. Here they come. Here come the parents. I don't care if you
Right.
tell them don't show up, it's no big deal. Here they come. I had a ladder truck out there on the road to block the entrance to the school to keep these parents from coming in. What are you doing? Now, now that all this is going on, more texts are coming in. Hey, I saw a backpack with wires sticking out on the second floor. No, I saw the backpack with the wires. Oh no, there was a backpack on the first floor. Over and
Uh,
over and over. It gets worse. I had an incident at Clearwater High School. A student came in and he said, I saw somebody in the bathroom with a gun. Okay, go into a lockdown. Here come the police. We're going to go search for this gun. All right, they go in, they don't find a gun. Starts again. The texts start coming out. Oh, I saw Johnny in classroom 2. He had a gun. Oh no, in classroom 3 there was a gun. Oh, Susie has on and on and on with this
wow.
BS with these phones. And you know what else they're doing? Because these phones, especially the iPhones, can airdrop. And I think it's like 800 feet. So they were airdropping threats across phones in classrooms. What do you do when there's a threat? You got to lock down, got to call the police. And it's like the old days when you'd pull the fire alarm because you don't want to take the test that day.
Mm, mm.
So phones in school, that is my biggest bugaboo. You got France, England's thinking about it. France, Italy, Germany do not let phones in any of their schools. I don't
Oh,
care what
really?
grade, no phones. And their grades have gone up. Their focus is much better. The
Hmm.
kids learn more. Why the United States is behind on this, I have no idea.
Hmm.
There's only certain private schools that don't allow cell phones. There is absolutely no reason for a kid to have a cell phone in school. None. Now, maybe if you got a job that you have to have a cell phone for, okay, then you know what? We'll make an exception. But I tell you what, those exceptions are going to be very rare.
Hmm.
Get rid of the damn cell phones. It's ruining these kids and it's making it harder for the police and the fire department.
It certainly is. So Daniel, when I started my business in the '90s there in Connecticut, I was working way too hard and not paying attention to myself, and I found myself at 340 pounds. I gained a lot of weight, and
Wow,
the doctor said if I don't lose the weight, I'm not going to see my daughter graduate. She was just born, so I spent the next 6 7 months. I lost about 130 pounds, kind of the opposite of what you had an issue back
good
then.
for you.
And I kept it off. And people always ask me like for a quick fix, just like your situation. Everybody wants this kind of quick fix. They don't want to work for it or anything. And I always
Right.
say, well, discipline. That's how I got it off. I got focus and discipline. I wonder how discipline plays a role in your life.
Yeah, it's a little different now. I'm retired from the job. I mean, I still if they need me for consultant work, I usually do these podcasts and I just want to keep up on telling people
Mm,
the right thing to do. But for me now, the discipline is mostly my son who is about to graduate. Hopefully, will go to college. He's applied at a few places, got accepted at a few. But right now, for me, the discipline, I guess, is just taking care of my son, taking care of my wife, and as you get older, some days you feel older,
mm,
some days you feel okay, but the aches and pains last a lot longer than they did when you were younger. So I'm fortunate because my wife is younger than me. She's very active. She's a big time softball player. She plays like 4 times a week. She was an all star in basketball. And even though as tall as I am, she can run circles around me
nice.
and we'll go out and play some basketball. So for me, it's not, I was always active as a kid, anyways. Nowadays, fortunately, my son, even though most kids now, it's all video games and you got to be on that phone, we told him you have to do one thing. You have to do one sport, something active.
Mm,
So
mm,
we found sailing. And I'm not into sailing, even though here we are in Florida, get all this
yeah.
water. It doesn't compute to me, but it does to him. So that's a good thing. At least he has something he can concentrate on.
Mm. And it's wonderful that you're still an advocate for it. Like you say, you're retired, but you've seen so many bad things. You know it can be preventable, and perhaps some discipline instilled in some of these practices with these school decision makers can save lives.
Yeah, I agree with you. And there is a lot out there. I'm on LinkedIn, and I've been on close to being in LinkedIn jail a few times
Hmm.
because I'm very opinionated.
Hmm.
But there are companies out there that try to sell these services that are completely wrong and that
Wow.
get schools in trouble with, again, litigation and liability and the training that they're doing. However, I can see the reason why educators fall for this because think about it.
Hmm.
When you're in a lockdown, it's a passive situation. You're passively just sitting there waiting for the good guys to come. This run, hide, fight, and Alice is more of a reactive and it gives you
Uh,
empowerment. That's why they like it. Oh, I can inform. That means I'm doing something. Oh,
hmm.
I can counter. I'm doing something. So they're
Hmm.
reacting. They don't want to sit still. They don't want to be passive. They want to be reactive. Well, you're not being reactive to some guy who's nuts, who's just kind of wandering around. You're reacting to a shooter who's going to kill you.
Hmm.
So it's much different. You're not. No, you should not be reacting. Let the police react. You be passive, be safe, be quiet. They're going to help you. There's no reason for you to be reactive and challenge this shooter.
Mm.
Now, what's happening, Joey, is I know we concentrate on the active shooter part, which again is like being struck by lightning or winning the lottery. Is it going to happen? Probably not, but you just want you prepared. But what's happening more and more often in schools is just the weapons. You'll have knives, you'll have guns that show up. And a lot of times, and if I already talked about Safe Havens International, they've done the research on this. A lot of times when people go through this Alice training, if you've got somebody that shows up with a gun, they make the wrong decision.
Mm.
People that are trained in this, I'll give you an example. They have one example of a teacher's outside in recess with her students. There's a guy that's about maybe half a football field away, acting kind of drunk, and he's waving around with a gun in his hand. You know, so common sense. If you've had no training, you're just sitting there going, "Whoa, okay, kids, back inside. I'm calling 911. We're going in where it's safe." And tell the police there's an individual out here. More than 50% of the people who have been trained in this Alice training will go and challenge the individual.
Mm.
Leave the kids where they are, and they will run towards this individual to challenge them, going, "What? Wait, what are you doing?" So it's this reaction, this empowerment that gives you that there's somehow a godlike figure. They're going to go out and challenge this individual. And that's what this training does. And what's happening is that I talk about training and drilling. Sometimes you get drill fatigue, and sometimes it's just you make the wrong decision. So there have been studies done by this organization, Safe Havens International, where people that were trained have made the wrong decision, and the ones that were untrained did better in the
Mm.
testing.
Mm.
So it's a very difficult balance to get the right type of training. And that's why I say stay away from the technology, all this whiz bang stuff. You just do a lockdown. Very
Mm.
simple. And the other thing is, I want to bring up in the book, I've got these credit card size little cards, and you can laminate them. And they're what's called quick reference cards. And on the quick reference card, it'll tell you about a bomb threat or a lockdown, things you may forget. Because I'm telling you, Joey, no one knows how they're going to react in an emergency.
That's
You
right.
don't know. You may think you want to know, but you have no idea what's going to happen. You may be going into a lockdown. You got the classroom door locked. I close the blinds. Kids sit down. I'll silence my phone. Wait, I forgot something. And you'll look going, "Oh my God, I forgot to turn the lights off." It's going to happen because your mind's going to go blank. You may forget what day it is because it's just this emotional impact that's instantaneous when you hear shots. So that's what I made these quick reference cards. And I found out a doctor friend of mine, she worked in the emergency room. She says, "Oh, yeah, doctors, we use it all the time." Like, we talk about. She says, "Oh, they'll come up with like a code purple." I forget what code purple is. Like, I look on the card. Oh, purple means this. So it's just something that you can reference because every teacher has a lanyard with their ID on it or
Right.
their copier card on it. Just attach it on there and you quick, oh, that's right. I forgot it to do this. So it's just something that's simple that you can
Mm.
quickly reference. So
Mm.
that's something I just throw out there that I think is a good thing to
Good
have.
idea. What motivates you, Daniel?
Oh, overall, um, yeah, I would say not only my son wanting to see what's best for him and taking care of my wife. She's a doctor, so as you know, doctors think differently.
Yeah.
Very intelligent, but I'm there to back her up because she'll forget keys or she'll forget where she put her glasses or something like that. Fine, I mean that's it. I mean, but her level of intelligence is so far beyond mine. I'm just there to help. I'm the blue collar guy. I'm just there to pick up to help. But what motivates me to get out of bed in the morning and stuff. It's usually I started playing softball again horribly because I never was a softball player. But just trying to stay in shape because she informs me, you need to stay in shape at this age. Also, diet. I find out that I've got a gluten issue, not total celiac, but I have a gluten issue. So, yeah, those are things that you find out as years later. Here I am, Polish, and they're telling me you can't have pizza anymore.
Ah.
Like, are you kidding me? So you can't drink beer, no more beer. Oh my God. So anyway, but there are alternatives, not great ones, but there are alternatives. But yeah, that's what motivates me to get up every morning to find out my son's doing okay and that I can help my wife.
And so how do you measure success?
Well, it's funny. I'm basically what I would think is a humble person. So when not that not a perfectionist, I wouldn't say, even though you want things done right. After my career and all this kind of stuff, I'll never forget my cousin, and I would be upset about something that I did or didn't do, and she said, "Dan, it's like look what you did in your career. You're a
Mm,
success. That's
mm.
what you measure success by." And I'm like, I didn't feel like I did really anything. She's like, "Are you kidding me?" She said, "Just take a look. Take a step back and take a look at what you've done." So it's that's kind of what drives me. And it's funny because my wife said, you should put an addendum to the book. You could put in another chapter or something like that. Because you're always trying to improve. So for me, success is just it's more. It's not money. It's more like just a pat on the back. It's more of talking to you people on podcasts that say, we really want to talk to you. You have a message that we want to hear.
Yeah.
And, to me, if I have either teachers or parents that say, hey, what you said makes sense, I'm going to change. I'm going to talk to my school board. I want my kids safe. To me, that would be the perfect level of success.
Mm. Absolute pleasure, Dan. I'm so glad we put this together. Like I said when we first got on, this is important work and it's a different world now. And there's people like
Yeah.
you advocating and have strong opinions about this. If anybody's listening, how can they get in touch with you?
I'm on LinkedIn, like I said. I know you type my name in; it's kind of difficult. The book is on Amazon. The first 5 minutes, if you punch that in, it usually comes up the first 5 or 6, sites that'll come up. I've got a Facebook page, also the first 5 minutes. My email's on there. You can email me with questions or anything you got, any concerns. So yeah, I don't like social media, but sometimes it does work out for you. So yeah, that's how you can get a hold of me.
Daniel Dluzneski.
There you go. There you go, Joe.
Dluzneski. We'll make sure we put it in the show notes. Daniel, thank you so much for your time, my friend. You be well and hope maybe one day we'll have a cup of tea together.
Absolutely, Joey. Thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it. You're doing a good job, doing good work.
You be well.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Would you like to financially support the podcast? You can go to our Patreon site. Consider $5, $10, or $20 a month. There's all kind of plans that we have there. There's like a one-time payment. What is this podcast episode worth to you? $25, $50, $100, $500, $1,000, $5,000. You be the judge. You can go to our PayPal account to do that as well. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.